If we go back 50 years, the average age for a child using a potty or a toilet pretty independently was 18 months.
I am a mom of a 10-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and I have literally trauma from my first one.
It's a really difficult skill. We're actually teaching a whole developmental skill.
For my boy, potty training was a little bit longer. He started later. We had some potty resistance. We also moved from France back then to United States, just in the middle of the potty training. Things not to do for all the parents.
It feels very different from brushing your teeth. There's just so much that comes with it that I think it's like the physical exhaustion, the mental load of it.
When we learn a new skill, we're not just up and to the right. There's times where we get things a little bit better, and then the next day we don't really have that skill.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Help Them Bloom. We have a very practical needed episode today. You know, I just did an episode on with a pediatric dentist on all things brushing teeth. And I feel like I'm just hitting the nails on all the power struggles we see in the house, because now we're moving on to potty, which is a really stressful thing for parents. I am a mom of a 10-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and I'm approaching that time again, and I have literally trauma from my first one. So I'm hoping to just kind of use this episode even for me as a refresher, as encouragement now that I go back into this. And I want to take a minute and introduce my guests. I have two guests, wonderful guests. One of them, her name is Elena Ducoin. She is a mom of two, and she actually invented a unique potty training product. It's an underwear that's designed for both daytime and nighttime use to transition while you're potty training, and it's called My Be Bear. And my other guest is Tabby Pool. She is a potty training consultant based in Miami. She's passionate about all things poo and peep, and she has over 15 years experience working as a pediatric OT in Australia, UK, and South Africa. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
This could not be more timely for me.
I'm so pleased to hear. Hopefully you get some good tips and tricks today. But it sounds like actually you did great last time.
Yeah, we made it.
That's the important thing, right?
This is the essential part.
Yes. Okay. Why, I want to ask first, Tabby, probably this, but why is this such a stressful thing for parents? Like, what do you see come up?
It's a really difficult skill. And I think that sometimes we forget that we're actually teaching a whole developmental skill. And often we want to get this done in a really short period of time.
Yeah.
If we think about children developmentally, they have to learn so many different things. So they have to learn to walk, they have to learn to eat food, they have to learn to dress themselves and to learn to talk even. And we don't tend to think about potty learning or potty training in a similar sort of developmental way.
That's
we would
true.
never expect our, 6-month-old, we'd never slap a steak in front of them and be like, hey, in 3 days, you should be able to eat this with a knife and fork, no problem. But for some reason, we really believe that potty training should be really quick. Now, that's not to say it can't happen quickly. I've definitely seen some kids that have blown me out of the water. They just, don't need me at all. But most of the time, I like to think of this as a developmental skill, just like we'd think about learning to walk or learning to dress themselves.
Do you feel like it's just a cultural expectation that has come about just from these methods that are like the 3-day method, the 2-week method? Do you feel like that's sort of tainted our expectations a bit?
I think so. I think there's lots of things that have really changed the way that we think about potty training and potty learning for children. So if we go back 50 years or so, the most common age, the average age for a child to be using a potty or a toilet pretty independently was 18 months. And children,
Wow.
it's amazing, right? So parents would really start a lot earlier, and there's lots of reasons for that. Generally, you had one parent that would stay home the entire time. We didn't often have two parents working. Life was a little bit quieter, a little bit slower. We didn't have disposable diapers either. If you're washing cloth diapers every day, you're pretty motivated to get that child out of diapers. So potty training and potty learning and this process started probably more around 9 months and extended to around 18 months. And so it's sort of seen as a long process, but it obviously achieved a lot sooner. Nowadays, of
Mm-hmm.
course, we have a lot different pressures on parents, a lot different pressures on kids. Kids are often in a few different environments. They go to school earlier. Maybe they're cared for by other family members or other people in their community. And it can be really complex. It's really emotive as well, right? No one wants poo on their carpet. Nobody wants
Yeah.
pee in the car. So it is one of those things that gets us a bit emotionally charged, and it can be
Yeah.
really difficult to see this as, see accidents as a normal part of the learning curve.
Do you see potty readiness, let's say? Is that a thing? Like, are not all kids ready at the same time? Are you supposed to follow the lead of your child? Like, how does that work?
Absolutely. Not all children are going to develop in the same skills at the same time, right? We see some kids that are walking by, 8, 9 months, and you think, oh my goodness. And then you have some kids that it takes a little bit longer. But that's why we have these developmental windows. We don't say, oh, if your child's not doing this by, day 65, then
Yeah.
we've got big problems. We give ourselves a developmental window, and potty learning is exactly the same. There are certain signs of readiness that I look for, but they might not be the signs of readiness that you're thinking about. So when I talk about signs of readiness for a child starting to learn the potty, I look for a couple of things. The first thing I look for is head control. Can that child hold their head up safely without too much to support? Now, you might be thinking, whoa, okay, we're talking about like 3 months, a really tiny kid here. And yeah, that's true. I've got lots
I'm
of
like, my daughter's been ready for like a year.
yes, she's ready. Let's go. The other things that I look for that you're probably thinking, okay, this makes a bit more sense, is a bowel and a bladder that empty at appropriate intervals and look healthy. So, what does that mean? So, we're looking for children doing a poo, at least every second day. I'd prefer them to do at least one poo per day, and anywhere up to 3 poos per day. They look like a nice normal brown sausage. There's no little tiny pebble poos coming out. We don't have really loose poos either. I hope everyone's already eaten their breakfast this morning. Are getting descriptive. And we're looking for wheeze coming out not too frequently, but not holding for really long periods of time either. So you'll notice that I haven't really spoken about any signs of readiness in terms of being able to dress themselves, wash their hands, recognize the need to go, tell you that they have a poo or
Yeah.
a pee in their diaper. So none of these things are prerequisites for getting
It's
started
just
with
like
potty
very
training.
physiological. I'm noticing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, that doesn't mean
Mm.
every child's journey is going to be the same. Every child, every family are really different. They might need different supports. They might need a different pace. They might need a different approach. But that's what I do. I work with families to figure out which is going to be the best approach, and also helping families get to that point of readiness. I've got lots of kids that come to me and their bowel or bladder isn't working in a really optimal way. We want to get that sorted so that we don't set them up for failure when we actually get, butts on seats.
Yeah. What is that age window that you think is kind of optimal?
So ideally, the younger the better if we start. Now, this doesn't mean that we get our 3 month old and we necessarily have to sit them on the potty 7 times a day. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. But imagine if you sat your baby over a potty for 2 seconds twice a day when you did a nappy change. Now, all of a sudden, once you start thinking about potty training, maybe the child is 1, maybe they're 2, and they've already seen the potty, they've sat on that potty hundreds of times. Now, when you ask them to do that, it's not something that's gonna necessarily be so much a power struggle. It's just gonna be a
It's
normal part of their
familiar.
day.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I
Yeah.
advocate for parents starting as early as possible, but not necessarily doing a very intensive approach if the child is very young. Yeah, I've got parents that come to me with real littlies. I think the youngest was around like 3 months. Before that, I'm a little bit scared, if they don't have the head control and the
Whoa.
babies, that's too much for me. But the majority of
Gosh.
yeah,
Good for
majority of
these
my
parents
clients
for even having the ability to think about that at that
They're
age.
yeah, it's
motivated.
amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. They wanna get out of diapers real fast. But I guess for the majority, mostly I see children probably around 18 months to around about 4, about that 3, 4 school starting time. That's the
Right.
majority of kids that I see.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Elena, I'm curious about how you got to your invention. Like, so what was potty training like for you?
Well, potty training, I have actually two kids. So potty training for both of them were completely different. So that's why I really love Tabby's approach because I'm very skeptical about those timelines and those signs of readiness that are tailor-made, like that are made for every child. Every child is so different, so you definitely need to understand how development of your particular child is doing and not like applying the general readiness signs that are available where in the internet and when you speak to other people. So
Yeah.
for instance, for my boy, potty training was a little bit longer. He started later. We had some potty resistance. We also moved from France back then to United States just in the middle of the potty training. Things not to do for all the parents. You do potty training, you do potty training, you don't move to another
And
country.
nothing else. Yeah.
Exactly. So we had to like really be inventive. We had to like implement potty charts. We had to motivate him. With my daughter, it
How
was
old was he?
he was when we started when he was 2 year old approximately, and actually he was doing really great. My mom helped me a lot, and I'm originally from Russia, so when I was little, when I was small, I was actually one of those kids who got potty trained when I was 12 months old because we didn't have
Oh
diapers
my
back then
goodness.
because they were not using disposables at all. And my mom was actually
Okay,
helping.
so I'm gonna side note here and say that my nanny had told me that she potty trained her kids all like at 1 year, and I thought she was making that. I thought she was literally just making that up, but now I'm seeing that it's
It's true,
it's
huh?
real.
It's
Okay,
feasible.
I thought she was just doing one of those things like I just know what to do like better than you, you know. So okay, I am mind blown right now. So 12 months you were potty trained. Okay, so your
Yeah.
son was around 2, and then your daughter was a
And
different experience.
And my daughter, yeah, so he was 2, and then we started, and then we moved. He had regressions and so on. So at one point, we got him fully out of diapers by like 3.5, something like this. And my daughter was different story. My daughter is a dictator at home, so she's very opinionated. She has her opinions about everything. And when she was 2, she just decided that she's big girl. She doesn't need diapers anymore, just herself. I know. Don't
I
hate me.
hear
I
these
know.
stories. I hear about these stories. I do. I also thank you for like letting me know they're real. I do. I hear these stories that people have kids that are like they take off their diaper and they're like, "Nope, I'm ready. I want underwear." And I'm just like, "Oh my goodness, what it might be like to have a child like that."
I can tell you that it's amazing. It was amazing for the daytime, and I think actually daycare helped a lot because I know that they were
Yeah.
helping her to like kind of graduate from diapers during the daytime. But our struggle was nighttime. So for the nighttime, you will not be that jealous of me because she refused wearing diapers in the nighttime at all. She was like,
Mm.
"I'm a big girl. Why you want me to switch back and forth between underwear and diapers?" And now I'm very happy that she did it because it really helped her to graduate from diapers so quickly because we were not juggling between diapers and underwear. We were not confusing her. And also she got to learn the body awareness during the daytime and nighttime at the same time. So it really helped a lot in her learning curve. But back then, I was okay with her staying in the diapers because she would still
Yeah.
release, like she would wet her bed during the nighttime. She was not fully ready. She needed
Wow.
to learn it. And I was working full-time job in the office, so she would wake up every like 4 a.m. in the morning, completely soaked. So we had to wash her. We had to change all the beddings,
Change the sheets. Yeah.
everything. And after the washing her, the baby just took a shower. For her, the day started and and it's 4
At
a.m.
4
You're like,
a.m.
yes. And you're like, no, no, you go to bed. Go, little rock star, go back.
Yeah.
And this is actually where I started to try to find solution that would be underwear, would not be diapers, but underwear that she would accept wearing during the nighttime that would prevent leaks because it was it was very hard moment where we it was every day waking up in the morning and then going to work and then going back. We were zombies with my husband. And I couldn't find anything, unfortunately, because what you can find oftentimes is potty training underwear with built-in absorbency that only catches some dribble, so like small amount of the liquid, but during the nighttime, they release such an important amount of liquid that it cannot just hold it. So I did my first prototype. Actually, I have it here with me. I came prepared.
Show us, show us.
So this is what she was wearing at the beginning. You see how uncrafty I am. I'm just terrible with you.
I mean, that actually feels very crafty. I would have I don't know what I would have done. That's so crafty of you to even think of
Thank
that.
you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. But I was like, you wanna wear underwear, wear even if it's exactly like this, but at least it can help me.
It
So
absorbs.
it absorbed because I sewed a little pocket on the outside of her underwear, and I just put my maternity pad inside because I had maternity
Oh,
pads. And I was thinking,
that
if
was
it
so
is,
creative.
it
Yeah.
it was, when you're exhausted, you are creative. When you're like back to the wall, you get very creative
You're
because
like, I
when you
gotta think of something. Yeah.
exactly. So, and honestly, it worked so well for us because the night where I did it, she still woke up because she still had an accident. It was not magical, but the only thing I had to change for her was underwear. So like 2 minutes
Right.
after she was sleeping, she was back to sleep. We as well. And little by little, I realized that she was waking up later and later. Then she
Yeah.
started to actually wake up and ask for potty. So she was dry, but she would wake us up and ask to go with her to the bathroom. And like in a matter of month and a half, she started to hold through the whole night. And she was 2 and 3, 2 and 4 months, something like this,
Wow.
which is
Yeah.
which is very early.
Fairly
And
early. Yeah.
and so that's why I'm like, now I'm so happy that we went through that with her, and it was such a short period because I read so many opinions of parents saying that their kids are still 5, 6, sometimes 4-year-old, and they're still in pull-ups while
It's
she.
very stressful. It
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 is
really is,
stressful.
that's wonderful. That's such a needed product. I want you to kind of show it to us at the end so everyone can see it. But it is a very like I think it's to kind of encompass what happens for parents. It's the cleanup, it's the smell, it's the
Yes.
showering. It's like it feels very different from brushing your teeth, right? Or like a mealtime. Like there's just so much that comes with it that I think it's like the physical exhaustion, the mental load of it. There's just, it feels like a giant mountain. So, Tabby, what do you recommend for like nighttime? Well, let me backtrack. Your approach. Okay, so do you have a variety of approaches depending on the family? Like, how does it work? Is it one size fits all? Tell us a little bit about how you work.
Absolutely. So every child is individual, every family is going to be different. So every approach is a little bit different. Now there's some key principles that are always going to be the same. So I always look at bladder and bowel functioning, make sure that's going really well to start with. And usually that involves tracking poos. So either using a little app to track your poos or a little, calendar on your fridge, or maybe not on the fridge if that's gross for everybody in the family. But you know what? Sometimes even through this process of tracking your poos, it really helps families to get a bit more used to
Yeah.
talking about poo in the
Yeah.
open, talking about pee, talking about the toilet. For some families, that's really difficult. Maybe,
Right.
it's not something that they do. It's
Maybe
so
culturally,
sometimes
it's like, yeah, like,
absolutely. Can be a real challenge. And I actually saw a great video on Instagram the other day, and she said it was this wonderful woman, a wonderful mother, saying the hardest part about starting potty training her child was actually having to use the word poop, having to use the word penis, having to use the word
mm,
pee in everyday conversation without cracking herself up laughing. And she was just standing there in front of the mirror practicing saying these words. And I thought, what an amazing exercise. So I actually get some of the families I work with, they really struggle. We really try and bust it out and
yeah.
help them get through that. So then we move on to setting up the environment and getting the family ready. So you'll notice I haven't even talked about sitting our butts on the potty or the toilet yet. So I talk about setting up the environment, making sure you have really supportive equipment. So you're either using a potty or the big toilet or both. They're set up so your child is really comfortable and in the optimum position to be able to poo and pee. We make sure that the environment is inviting and enjoyable for that child. So that it might involve thinking about bringing in some fun little toys. to help them with sitting and feeling comfortable, and also thinking about, okay, how are we going to manage accidents? Let's think about that right at the beginning, because they're going to happen. It's a normal part of the learning curve. So, are we going to stock up with My Be Bear underwear? Are we going to get different pad sizes, some for the day, some for the night? Are we going to cover our couch with a mattress protector? Because do you know what? We're just going to make it easy on ourselves. We're going to roll up all the carpets in our house. Do we have carpet in our
Mm,
house? So we have to really think about how we're going to manage this. Does grandma have carpet in her house? And we
right.
cannot poo in grandma's house. So we really need to think about how this is going to look. Is the family ready? Are the parents ready? And does the child, have we set the child up the best way for success? Then we talk about building a routine. So, what that routine looks like. For some kids, I might just ask them to sit on the toilet or the potty once per day. That's it to start with. Let's just try and build one time into the routine. Let's get that really, firmly established, a little bit like you were talking about teeth brushing before. Sometimes that's
Yeah.
another routine thing, right? If we can get it established in the routine, the fights, they kind of melt away. So similar
Yeah.
with toileting. If your child is playing Lego and they're having the best possible time, and you say, "Hey, let's go, it's toilet time," what are they gonna say to you?
No.
Absolutely not. They're gonna say, "No, I'm doing way more important things right now. You can see my dinosaur
Yeah.
Lego, and you need to shift off." So, and fair enough, if someone came up to me right now in the middle of speaking to you and said, "Hey, you've gotta go to the toilet," I'd say, "No, no, thank you." So we need to think about, okay, when in those times in the routine is it going to be easy to slip that potty sit or that toilet sit in? Maybe it's bath
Mm.
time. We're naked anyway. Let's just sit on the potty or the toilet. That kind of
And
takes
when
out
they
that
sit,
dressing
can I
stuff.
interrupt 1 second? When they
Yeah, of
sit,
course.
like, do they have to sit for a certain amount of time, or is it just like, let's see if you go? Like, is it very not pressured like that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. I'm so glad you used that word pressure. No pressure.
Yeah.
I really advocate for a no pressure
Yeah.
approach. So I set an expectation. So we're going to sit on the potty once per day. But really, a short, happy sit, I'd prefer that kid to park their bottom down, get back up in 2 seconds, and have had a good experience
Right.
rather than us setting a timer saying you have to sit there for a
Mm.
minute. And they're wiggling around. They want to get off. We're trying to sit them
Yeah.
down, and it's causing that power struggle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
And
just
then
one of
it's
those things.
consistency.
It's like the eating and the sleeping. It's like one of the it's really their body control. Like you can't
Yeah.
control their bodies. So
Yeah.
it's really helping them kind of build a positive association and relationship to toileting is what I'm hearing from you, right? It's like really
Absolutely.
and I am assuming, that most of the stress and anxiety is really on the parent part, right? That you have to really
Absolutely.
help the parents show up with, like, neutrality or, like, being okay with, again, how they're gonna talk about accidents with the kids. That's probably another really huge one too.
Absolutely. Accidents are, like I said, a normal part of the learning curve, but it doesn't mean that it's pleasant when you have poop mashed into your carpet and you're having to scrub it out. That's
I'm
not an
getting
easy
hives.
experience. Yeah, exactly. It is. It's emotive, right? We've all seen some things. But having a bit of a plan of like, okay, do we have a quick grab like bucket with all the cleaning stuff in and it's there so I don't have to run around the house. I'm not having to send my husband to the other side of the house and holding the child with poop on their legs or being prepared can really ease a lot of that anxiety and stress. And I think that really helps out. And thinking about how you're going to talk to your child. So actually practicing some scripts can be really useful. So not saying that accidents are okay. We don't want to say, "Oh, that's okay," because what are we saying? "Oh, it's okay to poop on the carpet." No, it's not really. But we can tell them that poops belong in the potty. Next time we're
Right.
going to try and get our poops in the potty. I'm going to help you clean this up. And, maybe helping your child, if your child's absolutely not capable or not in the place to do that, that's okay. We're just going to get the carpet cleaned. We're going to get our child clean and we're going to move on with our day. We're going to try again next time.
Do you use incentives too?
Sometimes,
Like,
again, this really depends on the
on
child.
the child?
Often the children that come to me are not the children that are motivated by a little
Like an M&M.
candy or a yeah. If your child is motivated by that and you've managed to use those things effectively, that's awesome. But it's probably meaning that you've kind of got a little bit further with the potty learning.
Yeah.
But the children
Yeah.
that come to me generally, they're gonna look at that M&M and they're either gonna say, "I want a whole packet," or
Yeah.
they're gonna say, "No, there's nothing you can give me." So
Yeah.
then we talk about trying to make the activity motivating itself. If sitting on the toilet is a fun time, because I get to read a little story with mom. I get to, I get to blow up balloons and play like keepy uppy with balloons, or I get to listen to my favorite song. Then that's going to be a lot more motivating for the child to want to go and sit than try to bribe them into it when your child is not
Right.
reward
I
motivated.
have a question about that though. Do you feel like it distracts from focusing on the body when they're sitting on the potty to like do so many activities while they're sitting on the potty?
For some children, absolutely. And this is probably where screen time comes in, which is one of the biggest questions I get. Is it
Mhm.
okay to have the iPad on the toilet or not?
Mhm.
I have no problems with screens on the toilet if your child is not totally sucked in and is still able
Mm.
to know why they're there and know why they're sitting on the potty. Now, for some children, that's going to be absolutely fine. They're going to sit there with their iPad, do their poo, no problem. For some children, they're going to sit there. They're going to sit there for the next 3 hours and they're
Right.
totally sucked in. They
Have
have no
no
idea what's happening
awareness.
in their
Yeah.
body. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And same for
Okay.
things like books or toys or games. Generally, if we're using like little things like this, like little party mode, this is probably not enough to distract them completely from their
Right.
body, but sometimes something like a screen is. So it's about finding that happy medium and trying a few things out. Let's try a few things like this. Let's try some blowing toys. Let's try stories and let's just observe and see how my child responds.
I want to tell you about this app that I discovered that is super helpful. It's a parenting app and it's called Wizer, Wizzer. It's a parenting app that uses AI to give you personalized support for hard stuff like tantrums, sleep struggles, screen time battles, and many more things. It provides 24/7 expert-backed tools and real-time coaching. It also helps you raise kids with empathy, emotion regulation, and life skills that matter the most. They believe that no parent should feel alone, and that's why they created this safe, judgment-free community to connect and grow with other people who get it. They are providing my listeners with a 2-month free trial with a promo code BLOOM2FREE. That is BLOOM number 2 FREE. I want to take a quick break from this episode to share more about my services offered at Hatch and Bloom. Whether you're seeking personalized one-on-one guidance or insightful group learning, we have the right support for you. Our private sessions provide you with the tools and strategies needed to support your child's growth. So take the next step in nurturing your child's potential and book a session with me today. Please visit hatchandbloom.co. That's .co. Or you can email me at evelyn@hatchandbloom.co. Now, back to the episode. I want to kind of segue a little bit, if you don't mind, into children who have already been potty trained and are having regressions, because this is a really such an often question that clients come to me with, and they're like, they're having accidents again. They were already fully potty trained, or there's a regression or withholding, which is another really big struggle for parents. So they're withholding poop. Sometimes I hear they're withholding pee during school. There's just, I'm sure you've heard it all. But so if we can kind of tackle regressions and withholding with that.
Absolutely. So again, regression, a little bit like accidents, it's a really normal part of the learning curve. When we learn a new skill, we're not just, up and to the right. There's times where we get things a little bit better and then, the next day we don't really have that skill as well. Or maybe you've moved from another country recently and your child's sort of forgotten everything they learned. That's really normal when a big change happens in your life. So I always encourage families to, remind themselves first, this is normal. It's not a disaster. It doesn't mean they've lost everything they know. We've just got to bring it back out of them. So I often advocate for going back to the last step that worked really well. So maybe
Mm,
your child was going to the toilet independently and they've stopped. Now, previously, you're giving them some reminders and that worked really well. So, okay, let's go
mm,
back to the reminders. We're going to be able to drop them off in the future. Or maybe your child started having a few little accidents when they're out and about and it's causing you a lot of stress and the child a lot of stress. Okay, let's think about, that's another time where Elena's product might be their underwear is such a wonderful
mhm,
thing for families because it just eases the anxiety. They're still going to feel that they're wet because it's actual cotton underwear. It's not like a diaper that wicks the moisture away from the skin. So they're going to know, but they have enough time to get to the bathroom, get changed. There's not puddles on the floor, just eases the anxiety around that. Now,
mhm,
withholding is, it's a whole, I could probably talk, I won't talk for the next 5 hours about it, but I totally could. I'm sure Ellen has heard a lot, a lot about withholding from me. Withholding can cause constipation, but it is also one of the main symptoms of constipation. Constipation is the number one thing that I see in my practice that prevents children from being able to use the toilet effectively. So
Because
constipation.
they experience pain and then they hold more or no?
Absolutely. For
Mm.
some children, they will experience those classic signs of constipation, really big poos, poos that you're like, how did that come out of that child? Or really hard poos
Right.
or difficult poo to pass. But constipation is a really tricky thing. Sometimes it can look like runny poos happening all the time, all day. And that's very confusing because then we think, oh, well, maybe my child's got diarrhea or they're a bit
Mm.
unwell. But actually, that can be a sign of constipation.
'Cause they're
Um,
not fully emptying out. Mhm.
Exactly, exactly. They've got like little bits of poo that are stuck behind. And that's why setting up the environment for potty training and getting them really comfortable on the toilet or a potty is so important. Positioning so important for them. So if you see withholding, the first thing I think of is constipation. The first thing I would start doing is definitely tracking your child's poos. So, writing them down, how often, what they look like. You can use food words to describe that, or there's a scale, the Bristol stool scale, which actually goes through all the different types of poo. And so keeping a record is really important. If you have any suspicions about constipation, speak to your pediatrician or your family doctor and see if you can seek some help. If you don't get, not all doctors know really how to treat constipation very effectively. Constipation happens to about 2/3 of all children, which is really, really common, but it doesn't mean we're extremely good at treating it. So sometimes you might not get the information that you need, in which case I advise you to be really persistent. If that didn't help, if your doctor's prescribed you a laxative or they've recommended something, a strategy, and it's not been helpful, go back to them and say, look, this isn't helping, we need something else. When you do see those signs of withholding and your child isn't constipated, so maybe you've already treated their constipation, it's probably, like you said, a bit of that memory and fear around, oh, I used to, I used to do poos and they were really painful or uncomfortable. Now I'm going to hold on to my poos. So thinking about teaching your child how to really reflect on their body can be really helpful. Obviously, it's tricky if you've got really little leaves, but also teaching them about their body. So teaching them what their poos might feel like, teaching them they have soft poo now, maybe they're eating certain foods, they've got certain fluids, they're taking certain laxatives, whatever the management plan is, and now their poos are soft. So really reaffirming that for them so that they know their poos are not going to hurt. After they do a poo, reflect on it. Did that hurt your bottom or did it feel okay? It feels okay. Does your tummy feel nice now? Yeah, it does. So encourage them around that. If they're really little and maybe that's not quite accessible to them, it's too hard to, I still speak to very little children like this, but I also get kids to just practice positions that counter that withholding. So when we withhold, we use a few muscle groups. We use our pelvic floor, which is that beautiful web of muscles at the base of our pelvis. We also use our anal sphincter muscles, so little round muscles that sort of look like this, and that we can squeeze and relax voluntarily, but also involuntarily. Some of those little muscles will squeeze and relax without us consciously thinking about it. And we also use our glute muscles. Our glutes are a really strong group of muscles. And so you'll often see kids, up on their toes, squeezing their little butt cheeks. And that can be a really classic sign. Or maybe even sitting down on their heel or kind of almost creating a plug. So if we see that, we want to get them into counter positions. So maybe not necessarily at that time, because that might be too tricky for the child, but thinking about practicing things like a nice deep squat. So
Squats
jumping like
and
a big frog or
mm,
sitting on a really low block, something like a yoga block and having their feet in front of them
mm.
while they play, thinking about
Love this.
doing spinal flexion or pelvic tilting. So if you think about, for all my yogis out there, like a cat cow on your
Yeah.
hands and knees, something like that can really help to
Mm.
relax all of those muscles and counter that withholding and help their body to feel safe to be able to do a poo.
That is really interesting, the body positioning. To kind of piggyback on that, I know that some kids have fears of pooping in the toilet. That's another really big one I've heard about too. And that can probably lead to withholding as well. How do you work through the fears?
Yeah, the fears can come out of so many things. If we can be detectives and sleuth out what is the actual fear, that can go a long way in helping us. So I've had some children be able to tell me they're scared of the splash. If they poop in the
Mm,
toilet, it's going to splash and hit their butt. They're not going to like that. I've had some kids say they just don't like the sound of the bathroom. It's echoey,
mhm.
it's loud, especially school bathrooms. I think
Yeah.
if there's other kids coming in and out, that can be a real issue. So sometimes we see kids, they're fine at home, but they're not
Mhm.
using the toilet at school. Sometimes it might even be like the idea of something leaving their body. Like, is that
Yeah,
part of
that's what
them
I've
that's
heard.
going? Yeah. And
Yeah.
it can be, a little bit challenging. So again, if that's what's coming up, some education. So I
Mhm.
teach really tiny kids, 3, 4-year-olds about their digestive system. Now, I
That's
probably
awesome.
won't teach them about, their duodenum or their gallbladder, but I am teaching them about their stomach, and that's where our
Mm.
food goes when we eat it all up and it's delicious. It makes our tummy really happy. And then it's going to go through our intestines, our squiggly wigglies, and eventually that's where our poop is made. And our poop is all our waste product. Our body doesn't need it. So we're able to get rid of that really safely. And so teaching them about this can actually really help. But obviously, if your child has a specific fear, so they're scared of the splash, maybe he's using
The
something like a
flush.
potty.
Mm.
Yeah, the flush or the
I know that's like
splash.
in the public bathrooms, like the automatic flushers are like, they really are so intense. Like if you really think
Yeah.
about being a
Sometimes you
little
just move
kid,
to the side.
yeah, being or like in
It
the
scares
stall
me.
next door. Yeah, like it really is. There's so much sensory overload in those bathrooms. Like you have to think about like I actually put myself in the position of a little child because I watch my toddler sometimes and she's like, now it's the hand, the blow dryer thing. And it's like a sound here, like the flusher in the
Yeah.
stall next door. Like it's so intense. So is that just like exposure? Is that just gradual exposure?
Yeah, exposure goes a long way, and also having some strategies. I think we spoke about before, sleep. You spoke about sleep, feeding, and toileting. They're really the big ones that kids have control over. They don't have control over a lot in their lives, but they do have control over when and where they poop,
Their
what
bodies.
and what they
Mm.
eat, and when they sleep to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely, if we can give the kids something to help them feel more in control. So even taking a pack of sticky notes and sticking it over the flush sensor in public bathrooms can be, little
Right.
things like this. I've got one mum who I think is genius. I'm not going to take credit for this, but I think it's wonderful. She actually just printed out an out of order sign, laminated it, and she takes it to public bathrooms and sticks it on the hand dryer so people don't go near her.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, and then after she's
smart.
done with her toileting with her kid, just pulls it off the wall, gives it a wipe, and off she goes.
Oh,
So
wow.
genius.
Yeah.
Or you just, if you can see the plug, unplug it. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that in other people's spaces, but you know what? I don't think anyone's going to be too mad at you if you plug it back in at the end. Thinking about, can you bring headphones for your child or ear defenders? Can you play a certain song?
Yeah.
Um, I've even worked with some kids with really extreme fears over flushing and some of those sounds, hand dryer sounds. Can we get a video on YouTube and have it down, the volume down really, really low, and let the child control how loud it goes, and let them pause the video, start the video, so that they have a little bit more control over their own sort of desensitization to those things. Using sometimes a family bathroom or an accessible bathroom. I often tell families, even if you can take them into the stalls, maybe finding an accessible bathroom is actually
Mm,
going to be a bigger room, bit more
right.
space. No one's going to go near the hand dryer. You've got a little bit more to work with in there, so that can be
Okay.
really helpful for some
Those are good
families.
ideas. And that's, I imagine, just the first steps to then eventually like gradual exposure because eventually they have to like go out into the world and you can't have out of
Absolutely.
order signs everywhere you go, right, for the rest of their lives. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So yes,
okay.
it
It's
is
to get them
thinking about
over
those
the hump,
strategies.
like to really kind of get
Yeah,
them out in the world. Okay. And I have
exactly.
one more question for you, and then we're going to go back to Elena. I want you to talk about your product a little bit more, which is, do you focus on like daytime potty training first and then nighttime? Is that how you do it, Tabby? Or because I know that it's different expectations, right? Nighttime takes a little bit longer.
Yes, absolutely. You've got it absolutely right. Do you want to come and have a job with me? You've actually got so much
I
knowledge
just
here.
want to send you my toddler.
I love it. I love it.
I had a very resistant. I waited till she was 3. I don't want to wait till Maya's 3. And she would hold her pee. I'm not kidding you, for like 10 hours at a time. She would
Oh,
be
wonderful.
Wow.
shaking and she'd be like, I don't have to go. I don't have to go. And her whole body was shaking. And I'm like, this is so awful.
Yeah.
And then when we came, and we were on vacation during like the middle. So the Elena, there you go, the travel.
Mm.
But when we came back, I ended up just doing one of those 3-day like naked, like panties. It wasn't even naked. It was like you're in your underwear, and her job was to keep her underwear dry. And we were all day just like catching her in her accident, but finishing on the toilet kind of thing with an M&M. She was fine with the M&M. She simple-minded. And it was fine. But then I do remember that a couple weeks later, she started withholding poop, and it was constipation. It's exactly what you said. It hurt her one time, and she's like, I don't want to do that anymore. And the pediatrician ended up putting her on like Miralax for a while until
Mm.
she just was fine. But it just was so much stress. And for her, like I really realized that the parental stress is like the first thing you need to work on, because you are transmitting 100% of this stress onto your child and 100% of this pressure onto your child as well. So I really want to be in a very different space now with Maya. But she's like, she has awareness. So she's like, she knows when she poops, she knows there's a toilet,
Cool.
she know, but she also is like, no, I'm like, do you want to like sit on the toilet? She's like, not really. No.
Yep. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, you've given her an option, you've given her a
Yep.
choice, and
Yep. Yep.
I
So,
think
but
kind of drawing her in, like she sounds like a kid. If you can get something sort of fun and engaging, and
yeah,
make the potty sit about something else for now, and
Mm.
then slowly
not even about
transition her.
her going to the potty,
Yeah,
just
and
about sitting.
even
Like, I like the
yeah.
routine, how including her in a routine. Do you have a
Oh,
preference between the small potty and the big toilet?
I love both. I think they're
Okay.
both great for different reasons. So the small potty, it's portable. You can have one in your kitchen, in your living room, and if you want to do that.
So you could
Also,
do you combine them, or do people pick one?
yeah.
You can
I
combine them.
I often say get the big toilet set up. So get a really supportive seat and step, as well as have a little potty. And now you've got a choice. Do you want to sit on the
Yeah.
potty or the toilet? You're not saying, do you want to sit on the toilet? You're asking them,
It's
okay, what book are we going to bring?
which one?
What
Yeah,
toy
the
are we going to
choices
bring
are
to the
how we
potty?
do it, basically, but we're gonna do
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
And
'Cause
it's a real choice. They get to choose
mhm.
where they go. And you can also start to see their preferences come if they always choose the potty. Well, what is it about the toilet
Right.
that they don't like? Do they not like having to climb up there? Is it the bathroom environment? Is there something that we can work on there? Or maybe they always choose the big toilet, in which case, great, get rid of the potty.
I
But
had
it gives
gotten
them the real
her
choice.
I had gotten her, like, a Minnie Mouse little mini potty just, like, a while ago, just to, like,
Oh,
play, and she decided that is her storage for all of her
oh yeah,
princesses. So there is just
they're in the
55
potty.
princesses in the toilet. So
I
I'm like,
love
"Okay,
that.
we need to start new. We need to get a different potty, like, this is it.
Yeah,
This."
I love the little toilet-shaped potties. I think they're really cool because it
Okay,
looks a
yeah, it
little bit
looks like
more
a yeah, this
realistic.
didn't even look like a toilet, like, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
It looks like like, Disney World prop,
It's a
you know?
throne. It's a princess
Yeah,
throne.
yeah.
Going
Okay,
back to
this
night wedding, I think we were speaking about that. So
oh.
night wedding is absolutely a secondary consideration. Now, it doesn't mean that we just forget about it and it'll happen. Most kids will spontaneously become dry at night, but there is a percentage of kids that will need some intervention. I really look for 6 months of no daytime accidents before I
Mm.
start intervening in
Mm.
nighttime. I really want that skill to be
So do you
concrete.
put on a diaper at night, like a pull-up at night? Is that or
So
it would be really Elena's underwear would be what would make sense there, something like that.
It's up to the family, of course. I always say to my families, "I'm gonna make suggestions, but you guys have to make the decision." And sometimes I'll suggest things a little bit more strongly, but absolutely using a product like Elena's, there is still gonna be a little bit of washing, but it's gonna be nowhere near washing all of your sheets, all of your comforter, your pillows, everything every night. So it kind of it is gonna be a little bit more wet, but it is gonna allow that child to learn what it feels like to be wet at night. And will that help them to wake up? For some children, absolutely. That wet feeling is going to actually teach them that, oh, before my bladder lets go, I need to be awake. And that can take some time. I'm not usually too concerned about night wetting until children hit about 5. So around the age of
Mm,
5, our bladder should be able to hold the amount of
through the
urine that
night.
we produce overnight. But
Is it different
obviously,
for
as we get
boys? I don't know why I feel like boys take longer. Is that not a true thing? Is that just
it's
the boys around
it's
around me? I'm
developmentally,
like
generally, little boys or little people with a penis do take a little bit longer with the toileting thing and with night wetting.
yeah.
Statistically, that's true. But I
Okay.
still work with lots of girls that are struggling with night wetting. But generally night wetting, I don't get too worried about, like I said, until they're about 5. And I also want the child to have a bit of buy-in. If we're going to disrupt anything to do with sleep, we need to make sure that the family's ready and the child is invested. Yeah, I have some 7-year-olds that are just not, they're so not bothered about wearing a pull-up or wearing padded
Oh,
underwear or waterproof pajamas or whatever it is. And if they're really not bothered, and it's not a good time to work on it with the family. I spend a lot of time making sure their bladder is really healthy during the day and encouraging, most of night wetting is actually solved during the day. If they have a good fluid intake, they're not constipated,
Mm.
their bladder is working really well, they go to the toilet right before bed. Those things are generally the most effective for helping kids become dry at night. But of course, there's other strategies like alarm systems and even
yeah.
medications that can assist children. So I
Okay.
always spend time getting it set up, thinking about the daytime, and then if the family are really motivated, the kids really motivated, then we can start working on nighttime.
Okay, awesome. What are some red flags to make sure there's nothing medical happening? Because I know sometimes it really is kind of what you were talking about with the constipation, or I forgot what it's called, and caprices or something. When the leakage is happening with the poop, or with a no bladder control. Like when do you seek? Like when do you know what's not normal?
Yeah, so we do look out for some red flags. Constipation is my biggest red flag. So what does constipation look like? Doing a poo more than 3 times per day or less than every second day. That's a red flag to me. Any sort
Okay.
of blood in anything, blood in poo, blood in wee, that's a big red flag. You need to get to your pediatrician as soon as possible. The other things I look for, so urinary retention. If your child hasn't done a wee in 12 hours, so you got really close there. That's probably something I'd flag and be concerned about. Now, I'm not saying that these are all critical and this is going to cause harm to your child, but this is when these are my early warning signs to say, okay, we need to get some medical intervention. We need to get some help.
Yeah. No,
And
she was
that's
just
what I
very,
recommend.
very determined. It
Yeah,
was like
well,
2
some
days of
kids
that.
are. Yeah, and some kids are really smart as well. They sort of get the relationship between fluid intake and needing to eat. So they actually start to restrict their
Mm.
fluids. They won't drink as much during the day at school, maybe, so that they don't have to do wees during the day at school. But of course, our bladder is actually a use dependent organ. So if we don't use it, we sort of lose our bladder capacity. So at first,
Oh,
yes, if
wow.
you don't drink
Mm.
much, you don't need to wee much. But then your bladder starts to shrink and you end up with a
And then it
teeny
can't
tiny little
hold
bladder.
much.
Yeah.
Oh, how
Exactly.
I okay. I
So
didn't put
so
that together.
drinking lots of
Okay.
fluid evenly across
Is
the day, so spacing of fluid, drinking the right amount, drinking the right types of fluid. This is actually like bladder gym. It helps your bladder grow
mm.
and expand and become really big and strong and healthy. So you can hold wheeze for a good few hours without having to run to the toilet or feel like you're gonna wet yourself.
Do you recommend cutting liquids before bed at a certain time? Nope.
I don't. We used to recommend that. So when I started my continence journey, I don't know, 10 years ago or so now, we'd say, no fluids a couple of hours before bed. But really the research that has come out since then doesn't support it and it tends to focus on the wrong thing. So if we
Mm,
now I promote getting more fluid into kids earlier in the day. So
mm,
asking kids to have an extra big drink at breakfast time, an extra big drink at morning tea time or lunch time. Trying to consume 75% of your fluid intake before say 3 p.m. end of school time ish. And then
okay.
after that, they're not going to be as thirsty. They're not going to need to drink as much. What we usually see is kids don't drink much during the day because they don't feel
And then they
thirsty.
drink a
They're
lot
so busy.
before, right?
Exactly. And it's got to
Okay.
come out somewhere. So
Yeah,
focus on the earlier part of the day. And then generally, we don't need to say restrict fluids. For very few children, if they're real guzzlers at night, maybe I'll say, okay, just fill up their water bottle half and send them to bed with that so that they're not having a whole water bottle before
right.
bed. But generally, I say just focus on more fluid earlier.
Okay, that's awesome. Elena, do you people use your products for starting to potty train, like transitioning into school? Like, do they wear it to school? I feel like that would be a great way to like transition potty training going back to school. Is that what you're seeing aside from the night?
Actually, several school is one of the usage that people use my underwear, but also when for instance, I have moms who use that when they go outside of their house. So they would put it train
Mm.
within the house with no stress over the leaks or anything. But then you go to the grandma house and the grandma house is all carpeted, or you go to your friend's house and you don't want
Or the
them
grandma
to.
doesn't follow the same rules that you do.
Exactly. And or when they go to the park, for instance. Well, you go to the park, you
Mm.
don't want
Or like a road
everyone.
trip.
Oh, road trip
Yeah.
is another. Or road trip or even travels by plane because you not always have a possibility to use the bathroom, especially
Yeah.
in the planes. So yeah,
So
this is
this really
occasion.
is a way for them not to feel like they're back in diapers. It really is a way like you're controlling the accident situation, but it doesn't feel like they have like you're still giving them the confidence that they're wearing underwear. That's pretty much what it is,
Exactly. And
right?
you avoid the
Yeah.
confusion also that because you avoid the confusion between the diapers and the underwear because when you start
Mhm.
switching back and forth, it can
Yeah.
create the regression. Because if you say,
Yeah.
okay, let's put sometimes the diaper back because we need to go to grandma house, then your child may say, well, listen, diapers is so convenient for me because I don't need to stop my Lego plays when I
Yeah.
need to go pee. I just do it whenever I'm sitting and then continue playing. Then just give me back the diapers for good and leave this underwear alone. When you're starting being consistent in what you're doing, using only underwear during the travels, during park plays, or even during the nighttime, even though indeed the nighttime dryness comes much after, longer after the daytime dryness. But when you start to be consistent, this is where the results start to show because your child know that there is no diapers anywhere near. I need to learn how the bladder works. I need to keep it and I need to progress. And I remember actually seeing one of those mom's hugs. It was like unhinged potty training hug that I used for my kid. And one of the moms said that when it was a COVID baby, so the baby knew all the COVID kind of struggles, and she told him, "Oh, there is no more diapers anymore in the stores, so like we cannot buy any more diapers." And it
There's
clicked something clicked, and
no
she
more
was
eggs and no more diapers.
exactly no more toilet paper, no more diapers, right? So and
Toilet
it
paper.
clicked.
Yeah, yeah. No, because that question comes up a lot. Like, should I put them back in diapers when they're having accidents all the time, or there's a regression? So I think that's just like a wonderful solution. Do you want to just share with our listeners where they can get some of your underwear, your website?
Absolutely, yes. I would love to. So the website is www.mybebear, like bumblebee and bear, and I know and .com. And I know that the name doesn't sound at all as potty training or underwear, but it was invention of my son actually. The name of the
Oh.
company, my son was then 8 year old when I started it, and I brainstormed with him, and he said, "My be bear," and he imagined even with me the logo. So I cannot now not to call my company my bear because of my son.
That's very sweet.
No, it's
I,
I'm keeping I'm doing that for my kids. I'm doing that to show them that they can be anything anytime.
yeah.
I started my company. I was trained lawyer, so I was not at all in the product product-based
What a
business.
pivot for you.
It
Yeah.
was a huge pivot. I was almost 40, so imagine like two kids, career, and a 40-year-old girl who decided that I'm done. I'm going to do potty training underwear. So, and it was just a way to show my kids that if at one point they feel blocked, they can do anything at any age. And this is what I'm trying to show to them. And that's why I want to involve him and then my daughter as well. She's small yet, but at the later stage to any decision making because I want them to understand that
hmm
it is possible. Even
They
at
have the
their small
power.
age, they can do
Yeah.
things. They had the power. So
This
yeah, the
sounds like a
underwear.
Shark Tank pitch. It really
Well,
does.
hopefully, Shark Tank producers,
I'm
please fill me out.
Yeah, I'm sending you all the Shark Tank vibes. And Tabby, can
Thank
you
you.
share with us where people can find you to work with you? I will bet I will be finding you very soon to work with you.
Absolutely. Well, I offer a free 30-minute consultation to all new families. And that consultation, I am going to tell you, of course, a little bit about me and a little bit about my services, but I'm also going to listen to your story and hear out to see if I think that I can provide assistance or if I think you actually need another professional involved. And by the end of our conversation, we'll have a few little resources and a start of a little bit of a plan. My aim is that, for some families, that's all they'll ever need. They'll never need to speak to me again and they'll go and spread the word and hopefully that helps in the future, that helps other families in the future. But you can find me, so you can book a free consultation on my website, which is tabithapool.com. I don't have a great story behind my name. It's just very narcissistic, I guess. Easy for me to remember. And then also you can find me on Instagram. If you reach out on Instagram, I will, send you my booking link and you can reach me that way. My Instagram handle is Toilet Time with Tabby.
That's so cute. Okay, thank you, girls, so much for being here with me today. This was so informative. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories as well.
Hey, everyone, it's Evelyn. Thank you so much for tuning in. Your support truly means the world to me. If you're interested in hosting a parenting workshop, I'd love to connect. Whether it's a private session for parents, a school event, or a corporate workshop, I'm here to help bring valuable insights and strategies to your community. Let's chat and make it happen. Please visit hatchandbloom.co. That's .co. Or you can email me at evelyn@hatchandbloom.co.